Welcome to One on One. I'm Phil Tillman, your host. In our effort here at PAC 14 to introduce the voters of Wycomico County and the Eastern Shore to candidates, we are interviewing candidates for public office. And today we welcome Laura Mitchell into our studio.
Thank you, Phil.
Nice to see you, Councilwoman.
Thank you for having me.
Now that kind of rings because you are a councilwoman in the city of Salisbury.
I am. I'm on the city council presently. I've served since April of 2011. So I've got about 3.5 years under my belt at the city level and 3 budgets, more importantly.
Yeah.
And I'm running for county council at large.
At large?
At large.
Okay. And well, tell us a little bit about your background for the few people who don't know Laura Mitchell.
Well, yeah, I say that any day I'm not in the newspaper is a good day. If I'm not on the front page, it's a great day. So, but lately we've been doing some really great things in the city, and I'm happy when I wake up and I see those things on the front page. The trolley, for instance, that's kicking off tomorrow. It's fantastic. I think it's really going to bring businesses downtown. But more about me. My background's in accounting. I have an undergrad in accounting and business management, and then I have my MBA. And I have about 23 years of experience in doing accounting, mostly government, but also a good bit of private, and training other people to do accounting. I've taught quite a bit, so that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's a part of this job that I really like, is that you get to talk with people. I get to learn things all the time, and I get to explain things a lot and help head off some misunderstandings by giving additional information that they may not have.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps a lot.
Well, having served on the city council the council is the legislative body, and then you have a mayor.
Yes.
And in the county, it's somewhat similar in that we have a county executive and the legislative body. Just tell us a little bit the difference between that type of government. What's the difference between the county executive's role and the county council's role?
Well, you're asking about the county executive versus a county council, or are you asking about the city versus the county?
Well, you can use the city as an example or whatever you want.
Okay. Well, a couple of big differences. One is with the budget, which is my area of expertise. Everybody else goes, oh no, it's budget time. And I'm going, yes, it's budget time.
Yeah.
I love it. I enjoy it. With the city, when the mayor gives us his budget, it's due to us by April 15th, and he turns it over to us completely. We can, as a council, make additions, deletions, move things around, change priorities. For instance, if we have different priorities, we try to be on the same page as where the mayor is. In fact, this year we're going to start having goal-setting sessions at the request of Councilwoman Shields, and make sure that we are before they start their budget process. And with the county executive puts together the budget, hopefully with that same process of inclusion and from best I can tell, understanding what everyone's objectives are and priorities are, because it's even more important at that level, because the county council, unlike the city council, cannot add to the budget. So if the county executive doesn't put something in there as a priority, then it's just not in there. Mm-hmm. Now the county council can move monies around. So for instance, the money that was put in for economic development this year, that could have been moved to something else like roads or schools or something of that nature. So the priorities can be shifted a little bit, but the bottom line stays the same. There's no, oh, let's put some extra money out of surplus in there or something like that. There's also the, lost that one. There are a couple of differences between the county and the city, but I think that's probably the biggest one in the roles.
The way the budgets worked. But of course, both are legislative bodies.
Both are legislative bodies.
And in the county, similar to the city, because the state has had some problems with trying to make up deficits, they've made it up a lot of times at the expense of county government and city government when it comes to roads.
Yes.
The
The
gasoline tax, and so on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the HURs are highway user revenues. Those are monies that come from partially from the gas tax. When you register your vehicle, there's money that comes from that. When you title your vehicle or tag your vehicle, and a number of other little sources like that, but primarily from the gas tax. This money goes into a fund that is supposed to come back to when it was created back in the 60s under Agnew, I believe, was the first study. They intended for those monies to go back to the municipalities and the counties to be redistributed because, for instance, in Montgomery County, PG County, they have a lot of mass transit that they can use, so they might not be driving as much. A lot of them might not even have cars that they need to register or whatever. Here, just to go to work sometimes is an hour commute, so we're spending more on gas. So it was kind of an equalizer among the state, around the state, to make sure that our hundreds of thousands of miles of roads were covered as well as and maintained as well as in Montgomery County or PG County. So what's happened in the last 6 years now is that about 6 years ago the state did have a deficit and they borrowed some money from the highway user revenues as well as from the Transportation Trust Fund. The Transportation Trust Fund got repaid, but the highway user money that was used did not. It was redirected to other areas of the budget. And that really hurt us. We lost, we went from getting, trying to remember the exact number, but we lost about 80% of our highway user revenues. And that was really painful because those roads still need to be maintained. And that meant taking money from other areas that were already strapped, were already cut. And that continued for about 5 years. Now, 2 years ago, for the municipals, the governor put $15 million in, and that's for all to be split among all 157 municipalities in the state. It sounds like a lot of money, $15 million, but you start divvying it up.
Is that the pothole fund or what are they?
No, it was a little bit different. That was for highway user revenue grant. We got $7 million by the formula. We got an extra $15 million. This came out of the sweep account from people who don't claim their income tax refunds every 3 years because you only have 3 years to claim it. So every 3 years, that last year gets cleaned out. So there was about $30 million in there. They split it, and $15 million went to the highway user revenues for the municipalities. And they warned us this was a one-time grant that you will probably get this year and next year, which in my mind makes it 2-time, but that's okay. So we got it last year, we got it again this year, and that put us at about $22 million, which is still only about half of where we were, which is about 45 million. That's just for the municipalities. The counties didn't get any of that. This year they lobbied hard. They kind of took it on the chin last year and took a lot of money out of other areas of their budget just to try to fill in potholes. So this year they did lobby harder and fought harder, and they were able to get some pothole monies, that, as it's been called, so a one-time grant to help stave off major issues until they could get back to getting highway user revenues. And I think that's one of the really important parts of what I've been able to do on the City Council. It's been very, very active with the Maryland Municipal League, served on the Legislative Committee for 2 years, and on the Communications Committee. I've been on the board and a committee every year since 3 months into office. And I'm in Annapolis quite a bit, and I talk to people, and I talk to our legislators every chance I get about things that are going on and what we need, a couple other initiatives. And I haven't really seen a lot of that from all of the members of the previous county council. And that was one of the things I felt we really need to do, because our legislators from the shore are outnumbered when they get to Annapolis. And they need people from their county councils and from their municipalities over there talking to other legislators to help them understand what life's like on the Eastern Shore, because it's not the same as Montgomery County or PG County or Baltimore City. And we have to fight for that.
One very important part of the county budget is the Board of Education, which that and Warwick make up almost half of the budget.
Correct.
Unlike the city, which doesn't have anything in,
Correct.
in the education part of the responsibility. How would you tell voters your view toward education?
I value education. I ran away from home after the 8th grade, so I didn't go to high school at all. But when I was 17, I went and got my GED and I started taking college classes. And I was determined that I was going to be that first one in the family to get that degree, and I was. I got my associate's degree, then I went on to get my bachelor's degree in a year and my master's degree in a year because I was just determined. I took a little break in between the associates and the bachelor's that was so hard to get back. I said, I'm not quitting until I'm done this time. I'm going to go. So I went very gung-ho and did that, and I'm very glad that I did. It means a lot to me that my kids both have high school diplomas or GED, one of each, and we have our grandson with us now, and it's extremely important. He's in the 2nd grade, and I see the differences between schools, between classrooms, between when my kids were in school and their class size and his class size now, and what that does to his ability to learn when there are 30 kids in the classroom and the educator is spending their time running after kids who can't sit still or need extra attention. I think we lose a lot that way. So it's really important to me that education is funded at a level that serves our kids.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do that, we're going to end up paying for it in the long run in terms of crime rates and incarceration. I truly believe that there is a very substantial connection between those who get what they need in school and do well and those who don't, and where they end up even in their teens at this point. It used to be 20s. Now, by their teens, a lot of times they're in trouble. If they're not engaged in school, they're going to be engaged somewhere. It's that sense of belonging, and I'd rather them feel like they belong in a classroom, in school, in a group, than in a gang.
So it's safe to say that one of the primary issues you see is support for education. What are some of the other issues facing county government?
I think that education is huge, and there's always that funding issue. We don't have unlimited funds, unfortunately. I don't think anybody does, but certainly in government we don't. So we have to prioritize. We have to do some priority-based budgeting, and education is way up there. But there's still only so many dollars to go around. So one of the things that I see is the ability for the county to coordinate with some of the municipalities in purchasing, in negotiation of contracts, such as the franchise fee renegotiation that's happening now, the plowing MOU, the snow plowing MOU that was recently done between the county and the city. So many people have commented, you've probably seen it yourself, where the county drives across the snow with the plow up, and then they put it down and they plow the county part of the road and then they pick it up over the city part, and vice versa. And it was all about liability. And all we had to say was, hey, if we agree, you take these 48 miles, we'll take these 48 miles, and you plow the whole street there and we'll plow the whole street here, and whatever happens, if it's in the county, it'll be on the county insurance, if it's in the city, it'll be on the city insurance, and voila. We have better service for our citizens, and we have savings that we can now put towards other things that are important, like fixing the potholes that come about from the snow, or education. I think that the biggest things that people look at when they're looking to move to Salisbury, whether it's an individual doctor looking at coming to PRMC, an instructor coming to, or a professor coming to the SU, or a company that's looking to relocate and considering Wicomico County, is your schools, your crime, and your housing. And I think that those are the areas that we need to focus on. I've been very focused since finding some boarded up homes while I was campaigning for city council that belonged to the Wicomico Housing Authority. And I've had several conversations with Secretary Skinner at MML conferences and conventions, saying, look, what can we do? How can we work through this? And I went to a meeting. They just lost their executive director, but I went to their board meeting the other night and said, here is one opportunity, and talked to them about some other things that are going on. The mortgage settlement funds are easier to use for projects like that than regular DHCD money, because the housing department has restrictions in commingling the money with HUD monies. So those mortgage monies that they got from settling with the banks that did some naughty things with mortgages, they don't have those restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some ability to try to tap into some of those monies and get these houses back on board so that we have safer neighborhoods.
You live in the city of Salisbury. You represent the citizens on the city council. But there's 100,000 people almost in Wycomico County. Some of them live in Powellville. Some of them live on farms. Are there different issues for different areas of the county, and how will you address those?
I think there are. Certainly Salisbury, being on the Salisbury City Council, I'm more familiar with them. We have 32,000 residents here. We have the majority of those that live within a mile of the outside is probably totals about 55,000, and most of them come into the city during the day. So it's kind of like a mini Ocean City. Instead of coming in the summer, they come during the day and go out by night. But outside of that, there are issues in Hebron. There are issues in Sharptown, and I have attended some of the city council meetings in some of those cities, working on all of them, but some of them conflict with our meetings, so it's a little bit challenging. But knowing what's going on, a lot of them are the same. Issues with housing, making sure that they're up to code and things like that. But a lot of them are very different. Having the lights taken down at the ball fields in Hebron and Sharptown, and then not going back up. That changed what they did. They were used to having family picnics out there and ball games on Sunday, and not having to run home as soon as it got dark because the lights came on, and then suddenly they were gone. So now they've been successful in getting some of those lights put back up. So you have to understand what's important to all of those areas. And then in the more rural areas, even than that, the farmers, there have been a lot of things being pushed down from the state level that may or may not make sense in some areas for our farms. Our farmers, I think, are the original environmentalists. They have the least interest in destroying the land or the waterways, because that's how they make their living. And we need to help educate. That's back to that issue of being in Annapolis and helping people understand, other legislators understand, that just because you have a chicken farm or you're raising other livestock doesn't mean that you are the sole contributor to pollution, that you are the cause, and they need to find the solution by shutting you down or hamstringing you so much that you can't survive. Not sure that everyone understands that. And I think it's really important that we are advocates for all of our industries here, and agriculture is huge.
Mm-hmm. And it's not impossible to be, or is it impossible to be an advocate for our agriculture and an advocate for cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay? Is it possible?
Yeah, I think it's totally possible. I mean, because as I said, it's in their best interest. We have a significant amount of employment on the Eastern Shore from the watermen as well. They're feeding us just as much as the farmers. I don't know about you, but I went to a number of crab feasts this summer, and if not for keeping our bays in good shape, we wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
So it's important, and I think it's possible. We just have to find a balance. We can't have extremes in either direction. It can't be all environmental or all farm. It's not one or the other. We have to coexist, and we've done it for a very long time, and we just have to get back to where we can have that communication and find what works for everybody.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned public safety and crime. the city is very proud of the fact that Barbara Duncan, the police chief, has done an outstanding job. The county is pretty proud of Sheriff Mike Lewis. A few years ago, there was some talk about merging those two departments together. How do you feel about that?
Well, there's been talk about merging the county and the city as a whole. I haven't given much thought to the police departments individually, but one of the issues, the biggest issues with doing any kind of consolidation is the revenue cap in the county. The way that it is structured, that can't happen because they could take on our debt, but they couldn't take our revenues. So we'd both be bankrupt. So as long as that revenue cap is in place, and that's what the voters voted for, there is very little merit to even having a discussion of consolidation. Now, cooperation and coordination, like the snow plowing MOU and things like that, absolutely we need to have those conversations. I feel like that's where we're going to find money in the budget to do some of the things that we're struggling to do right now. And what we get, if you're not on the county council, is a very top-level summary of the budget. I can't get in there and go line by line as I like to do. So I can't tell you exactly where those savings will be or where we could find those monies, but I can tell you that we were able to do it in the city. I went in there the first year, we had people taking 3 days of furlough, everybody. One of the first things we did was a round robin of what are your goals for this budget season at the council table. And my first one was, I don't know the exact number, but I rattled it off to the penny at that point. And they said, what is that? I said, that is one less day of furlough for everybody and no furloughs for anybody making less than $30,000 a year. First of all, I'm surprised that we had people making less than $30,000 a year and how many we had. But certainly those positions can least afford to have a furlough day, or much less 3. So we were able to do that. We were able to find little bits here and there. We were able to go line by line by line and find those monies, and even $100 here, $1,000 there, $2,000 or $3,000 there. Some of it was they'd been budgeting a certain amount every year, and it just kind of got carried over because we had some new personnel in some departments, and well, they must know that's where it's been for 5 years, so I'll just leave it there. But it hadn't been used. You know, you're budgeting $200,000 and you're only using $100,000. Well, hey, there's $100,000 in your budget that you're putting in there and not using, that you're putting into surplus at the end of every year while something else doesn't get done. So I think it's hugely important to look at each individual piece and look for those monies that you need.
One thing we all have in common, whether we're from Sharptown, Salisbury, or Willards, is the fact that we have enjoyed a huge increase in our tourism revenues.
Yes.
For a lot of reasons, not the least of which is the zoo. Mm-hmm. And adjacent to the zoo is that private thing called Ben's Red Swings. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of that, used to be a street, the parking area, is the city park, the picnic island. What a draw that is. That's a destination now.
It is. It really has. The zoo has been shown to bring in a $17.4 million economic impact every year. Wow. That was done by Beacon at Salisbury University, and that was about 10 years ago. So it's probably greater than that now, and that's people coming there to, they're staying in hotels, they're going to lunch, coming to the zoo. I hope that they're enjoying Ben's Red Swings and the rest of the park as well. But we recently, well, I say recently, a couple of years ago, did an MOU with a local group to clean up the bike trails, the legacy trails that were in the end down past the dog park. We also have the dog park. That's something that a lot of places don't have. And that has been a big draw. I went to a city park commission meeting the other night. There's a lot of discussion about the park and what's going on. We're getting ready to put in the skate park down on the far end, but also looking at the park as a whole and how we're going to use that. And we did budget $20,000 this year to do a city park master plan. We have a number of master plans for the city, but not for the city park. So what works? How much of this do you keep raw, if you will, and wilderness-like? How much of it do you utilize before you lose that feeling? The skate park, that's a concrete base. That's a little bit different. There are other things like the bike trails where it's really just moving dirt. You're not paving anything. You're not doing it, making any permanent structural changes. But they have gone in and made some changes that helped to stop some erosion we had going on in there. And I've walked those trails. I haven't ridden them, but I have walked them, and I love it. I enjoy it. It's like you have gone away somewhere. So we're looking at how we can best utilize that for our own citizens and as a draw, to have more people look at Salisbury and come to it and not through it. And that's what they're doing with the county as well. And I look forward to being a part of bringing that excitement that we have going on in the city to the county level. We're looking at putting in some land from the city, giving that to the county to add additional softball fields and a couple extra soccer fields up at Henry S. Parker field, so that we can have that more of that draw for the softball tournaments.
Yeah.
They want extra fields. They want 8 together in one place. So I think that's huge. Having the shorebirds here, that's huge. Having all of these draws. But I think there are a lot more things that we could do. The Renaissance Festival is saying that they've outgrown their place where they have their festival in Columbia, and they're looking to go somewhere else. First thing I did when I heard that was call Dave Ryan and say, have we talked to these people? And that may not work, but having your ear open all the time. Same thing with Punkin Chunkin. They were outgrowing their area. They were looking at maybe not being able to stay in Delaware. So, hey, we got lots of open land in Wicomico County. Bring it. Bring it to us. We will take it. So I think just being aware and being on the forefront and trying to go out there and bring in more people. And I think we all have to be advocates. I'm really bothered by people who talk about how awful the area is, or how we're doing this wrong or that wrong. We need to be our own cheerleaders. We really need to be out there saying what a great place this is to live, because it is.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't let other people know that if we're drowned, that we let ourselves be drowned out by people who may not feel the same way. I think that we have an opportunity here in Wicomico County to make this the premier place to live on the East Coast, because we have everything. We've got the Chesapeake Bay. We've got transportation, by multimodal transportation, the second largest port, second largest airport in the state. It's just brimming with opportunities.
In the minute we have left,
Okay.
I want you to pretend that camera is the front door, and you knock on the door and introduce yourself. What are you going to say when Mrs. Jones comes to the door?
Hi, I'm Laura Mitchell. I'm running for County Council at large. I have served 3 years on the City Council, and we have begun to have a lot of movement, and we have a lot of excitement about things that are going on and the growth that's happening in the city. And I want to be a part of bringing that to the county. That shouldn't be restricted to Salisbury. It needs to happen all over our county, and I want to involve you and everyone else in the county in helping us do that. I hope to have your vote on November 4th, or early voting starts on October 23rd. So I hope that you will get out and vote the entire ballot and vote for me, Laura Mitchell.
Well, thank you, Laura Mitchell, candidate for the at-large seat, one of the at-large seats on the Wicomico County Council. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And thank you also for being with us right here on PAC 14.